All right, did you hit it? Oh, it didn't even do the countdown. It's just stop.
I'm getting a countdown.
Oh,
Welcome to another
hey.
episode on Between the Notes podcast. I am so excited to bring to you all our wonderful director here in Fort Worth with Fort Worth Opera, Francis Rabalais. Welcome to the episode on the Between
Woohoo!
the
Thank
Notes
you.
podcast. Yeah, we're
Yay.
so glad that you're here. So one of the things we were talking about, I mean, as recent as last night, right? We were like, it would be great to do an episode talking about intimacy coordinators because that's been a part that you have played. I think Brian and I have both been in productions where that role has. Well, we've been in productions where there was none. We've been in productions where there are. It's something that's only
Right.
come about what in the last 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, I think HBO. I was in the Pittsburgh Resident Artist Program when HBO was like, we have an intimacy coordinator on every set now. So that must have been 2017-ish.
Yeah,
Something
hold on
something
a
just
sec.
happened. Got an incoming call in it, and it connected. Sorry, I lost it. But you said since like 2017. Is that what you said?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And so, from your perspective, what were some of the things that really sent this into a necessary position?
Think Me Too had a lot to do with it. If I
Sure.
think of things that are happening at about the same time, and all of a sudden people realized that if everybody got together and say, hey, this is what happened to me, and this behavior is unacceptable, and we should
Mhm.
not keep hiring people who continuously hurt other people on purpose. And it kind of people realized that if they got together and brought this up, then maybe there would be some repercussions, even in Hollywood. And then people were like, yeah, there should also be repercussions in opera for that sort of thing. And
Right.
I think that had a lot to do with like the sort of meteoric rise of intimacy as a field.
Mhm.
But people were doing that before we had the term intimacy director or intimacy coordinator. It's just, you know, um, Tonya Sina, who's one of the leaders in this industry, she wrote a thesis a couple of years even before that, maybe in 2012. Like her doctoral thesis was about like, hey, we have fight directors. Why don't we have people who do the same thing for nudity scenes or scenes of sexual violence or even just like, you know,
Yeah.
intimate scene, kissing scenes. Why don't we
Right.
have somebody who's an expert in that um body movement study
Yeah.
and maybe that would be helpful because sometimes it can be really not helpful to not have somebody there.
Sure, and like kind
Yeah,
of an authority as like a point person to say that, at any time, actor, singer, whomever can go to this person and say, I am uncomfortable in this circumstance because of this. Can we help sort this out? Because a lot of times I've seen where big stars are in there, they just feel like they do whatever they want. They'll do whatever they want. And so,
well, and
Sadly,
I think
many
Amber
times.
Jett sort of let us know about those big stars doing whatever they wanted to, and I mean, among others, but I think that was when sort of the truth came
well,
out in
let's
some
not
big
name any
ways.
names. Let's not name any names.
No, 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 no names being. I'm just saying she was the one that wrote an article about it in the Washington
Right.
Post. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
like, yeah, and I think it's you hear all sorts of stories. I did my first intimacy training with a group that is no longer exists, but it was, for a while intimacies trainings were just like trauma dumping. And the
Mm,
instructors were like, "Hey, I believe that this happened to you, but this is more appropriate for your therapist. And
right.
we all believe that this was terrible." But it was like, and this
Right.
director said this, and this person did this, and it was
Yeah.
really bad. And there was just sort of an acknowledgement that like this can lead to long-term harm,
Yeah.
and it's that we should try and stop that
And there's a
or have the
necessity for
tools.
this. There
Yeah,
absolutely is
yeah,
a necessity for this.
yeah.
Weston and I are both the only guys in our family. So with,
Right.
2 daughters and his daughter and our wives, I mean, and that doesn't mean to say that like I know I've been put in positions where I felt uncomfortable
Of
by
course.
gay
Sure.
colleagues where I
Of
was like,
course.
"Oh geez," and
Or
especially when
even
I
just
was young.
being asked to do something that you don't have. I mean, like one of the first things we start with in intimacy direction is like, we need clear notes,
Yeah.
even for kissing. Like, we can't
Yeah.
assume that everybody knows how to kiss
Right.
or like has experience doing the act we're trying to portray on stage. So it's
Right.
even just a matter of like, we can't we can't ask actors to pull from their own experience, right?
Right.
Like there's some harm in that. There needs to be some separation between character and actor, especially like, you don't want to start think method with Scarpia, right? Like that's a problem.
Right.
Well, to case in point, I mean, Scarpia is really one of the only roles that I sing that gets there are very few romantic baritone leading roles outside of
Mm,
musical theater, and so when I
Mhm.
look at the typical operatic canon that I perform, Scarpia, like you said, I mean, okay, that gets pretty rough and tumble, and I think that we desperately need some help figuring out that relationship between he and Tosca, and how the advances that he puts on her, and how her way of killing him, and how that all works
yeah,
out.
yeah,
And I think it's great to have the intimacy coordinator as well as a fight director to make sure that everything happens in a safe
Safe.
way
Yeah.
in
Right.
all the ways. But like, for example, this coming summer, I'm singing Horace Tabor in Ballad of Baby Doe, and like, I'll be honest, like, I mean, my senior year of high school, I sang Cinderella's Prince and The Wolf and Into the Woods, and that might have been the last time that I was like romantically kissing someone on stage in a
pull
role.
that
Like,
pull that skill set off the shelf and dust it off and
Yeah, right.
right.
but like, the intimacy, usually in live theater, it's an intimacy director or intimacy choreographer, and
Mm.
for screen and TV, it's coordinator. But like the terms are kind of interchangeable as long as you know who's doing what. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't matter that much.
Right.
Legal might have a different take on that, but
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
but it's they're there to be a choreographer first and foremost. They're there to help navigate the power structures that exist in the rehearsal room,
Mhm.
and they're there to help navigate the outside trauma that you might be bringing into the room, both usually negative. So it's a multi. I think just acknowledging that these situations can be complex can be really helpful. But not every cast needs an intimacy director. Not every production needs an intimacy
Right.
director. Like it depends on the needs of, the director's vision, the cast. Have they worked together before?
Mhm.
Are these established people? If
Right.
younger emerging artists, are usually much more hesitant to be seen as creating friction in like
Right.
or they don't want to be hesitant. They don't want to be high maintenance,
Sure.
Right,
and
right.
Yeah, that's
and
so
there's a lot
true.
of our industry where singers are told that they don't have an artistic choice or that they shouldn't have an artistic choice. You have to do what the conductor says or what the coach says, which
Mhm.
in some ways wisdom is wisdom, absolutely. But also, your body and you're an expert on your
Right.
body.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah, because there's the whole idea. Well, don't you you want to just be like a yes person, right? Like, because you want to get hired back, right?
Well, and as if I put on my director hat, separate
Hmm.
from my intimacy director hat,
Right.
like, please don't let me be the only person coming up with ideas in the room. That's exhausting.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've all been.
Well, and so like take this opera that we're currently doing. I mean,
Never heard of it.
there's some
Never heard of it.
kissing
No,
scenes
it's
that
very
happen. I
new.
think
No
it's very
recordings.
new. Pinkerton and Butterfly in Act One. I'm sure there's some intimacy opportunities in that staging. So, do you find yourself sort of wearing both hats as you direct the show, and relying
Yes and
upon?
no. Yeah, it's sort of I had worked with Zach before, so I kind of knew
Mm.
like he's great about let's make a plan for the kiss and blah blah blah, which is like just step one is like just make a plan. But I
Yeah.
hadn't worked with our soprano before, and it's sort of like your idea for the show also has to be suited for the singer's personality, right? And so an understanding what our soprano in particular brings to the role really shapes the whole show, which affects the intimate moments, right? Um, and it was sort of like I was mostly sure that we didn't need an intimacy director, like, no nudity,
Hmm.
nothing beyond I think light making out is how I would describe the intimacy
Uh-huh.
level in our version.
Yeah.
But and it's in that case I felt like I was very comfortable that we would have a safe working environment with the choreography I saw in my head. Um, and it's, if I was working at a school, I might really ask for an intimacy. If I don't know, some master's students doing Butterfly. First of all, maybe not. Second of all,
Maybe not.
I would
Welcome to
definitely
IU
go
next
for
year.
yeah, I would definitely be like, we got to have an intimacy person just because they're younger and, putting down a boundary and saying, hey, talk about what you're going for here because I can't or won't do that is a skill you can build. Like in a lot of intimacy trainings, we start with just practicing saying no
Right.
because it can be really scary to say no, like both in the rehearsal room and like out in the world. I'm from the deep South. I know how we sidestep
Yeah.
Yeah.
around saying
Yeah.
no.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. Because you don't want to get a bad grade if it's a teacher. You don't want to, get in their bad graces if it's a whomever. And like, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
It's so refreshing to hear this because a lot of the productions and stuff that I did over in Europe were revivals, right?
Mm.
And they were like,
Oh,
"Oh,
yeah.
this is how it was done. You have to do it that way." And people were not always cool with it. I mean, like
Yeah.
we're just talking about a Calixto Vieto production with Zach that Katie was doing. It's like those productions are notoriously racy and
Yeah.
notoriously whatever.
Not
And
a lot of clothing.
no, not a lot of clothing, and there was not an intimacy anybody
Yeah, I
with,
I I haven't worked in Europe, but my understanding is that even a fight director can be rare if you're not working with, like, weapons. Like,
Well, thankfully, I didn't encounter that
good,
where there was
good.
any kind of real
I'm
fighting where there
glad.
wasn't a fight director. But
Good.
I mean, I'm sure in smaller houses that would fall under director, as would an intimacy thing.
Hmm.
It's
As
funny you should mention that because that's actually how I got started as an intimacy like, as a young director. I was
uh-huh,
like, "Okay, I'm gonna be working at these companies that have really small budgets
yeah,
and then hopefully going up," but I just wanted to be able to make a kiss and a slap and a feint look really good.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I took some stage combat training, and while I was there, the upper level group did like a 1 or 2 day intimacy training.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was like in 2018, so all this stuff had like just started, and
Right.
I was like, oh, I should do that because I want to make a kiss look good.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of went from there. Like it very much came from a place of utility, which I
Yeah.
think intimacy directors, we talk about this a fair amount. It's like, utility. We want it, we're here for the story, right? We're here to make the story look good. And also, we think about how we can create a society where, like, these power structures don't affect us in the same way.
Right.
Like, these
Hmm.
power structures are lessened or are more benevolent.
Yeah.
And we're bringing less baggage into the rehearsal room. Like, we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
work ourselves out of a job
Right.
really is like, ideally, intimacy directors don't need to be there for any of the emotional stuff. And we're just doing the like, okay, where does your hand go to create this action?
I love that.
So,
Yeah, it reminds me of I think it's a Thomas Jefferson quote that was like, if we were all angels, we wouldn't need government, because
yeah, yeah.
everybody
Oh
would be
gosh, that's a whole can of
respectful
worms.
of each other and no one would be exploiting or taking advantage of anybody and
Hmm.
life would be fair. But until we get there, we're going to need people like you doing this. And we were so thankful and appreciative about that.
100%.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Do
I
y'all have
mean,
any specific questions or have people asked y'all or just
just
like,
keep saying
what do I
y'all.
do in this
I love it. Makes me
situation?
feel like I'm home, and
Well, you know, you
I
guys are
miss
both from New
hearing
Orleans.
y'all.
Francis is from New
Hmm.
Are
Orleans.
you really?
I'm born in New Orleans. My
What?
parents are both from the Baton Rouge area.
Oh, come on. This is a joke. Why is this
Yeah, yeah.
happening on camera for the first time? Well, it's so great to meet you. Well, I know why. Is because you're probably a couple years younger than I am. But what a great town to be from, to be in the opera world, right? Like with such
Yeah.
a
I
rich
mean,
history.
the theatrical, like, parades are just theater.
Totally,
And
totally. All the
I
Mardi Gras, all the
definitely think my,
carnival.
like, demand for spectacle comes from
Yeah.
Mardi Gras parades.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
That's
Do I have any
amazing.
questions? I mean, I just remember hearing stories of from older colleagues that just assumed because I was a guy that it'd be like, oh yeah, well, I was singing with this famous soprano, blah blah blah, blah and I kissed her for 12 seconds or something. I was like, what are we really? Is this a conversation that's
And
happening
did you
right
get a
now?
prize
Right.
for the longest kiss?
Yeah,
Was that
Yeah,
from,
right. And like, did
did
she, yeah, did she have
in like
any interest in you at
yeah.
all? No. Like, shut up.
No, no, I know exactly, and I mean, like, so when I did the first thing I did at Covent Garden was a Carmen that they taped for in 3D for movie theater release, and it was a Zambella production. And I would say
Was
that
that the
was
one with the big curved wall? I
yes.
was the assistant on that at WNO a couple years ago. It's a gorgeous looking production.
Yeah, but
Is
we
that the
didn't
one they did at WNO a couple years ago?
yes, I believe so. Oh,
Yeah,
is it?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the fight director for that worked as an intimacy coordinator
Yeah.
because the cameras were so close
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they were
yeah.
very, you know, kind of like Francesca wasn't there except for like the last kind of run through, I guess, orchestra dress. But we had the cameras in with us in rehearsal because they were all like
Yeah.
handheld cameras, and because I guess of whatever the way that 3D is shot, they were inches away from us. Like they were really close because they can't zoom in as they would normally for like HD stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point being is that we had to make the fights and all the stuff with Carmen and
It's
Jose look very
just a
believable
different
because
level. Yeah.
right, because if
A
you're
different
looking at that on a
style.
big old screen, more like film,
Yeah.
that's like, that's a pretty bad fake of that. And I remember the girl, Christine Rice, who I sang with, super cool. We had worked together before. She knew that I wasn't gonna pull anything, and we were just really trying to tell this story and sell it as best she could. I mean, she was married, 3 kids, like, it was fine. We all went to dinner. It was fine. But it takes a level of trust between those two partners in the scene to
Yeah.
know that nobody's trying to exploit or in any way take advantage of somebody's vulnerability in something like that. But that is not always it's not always the case.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I'd
that's what's
say
sad.
the interesting thing with Carmen is like for the audience. So in intimacy, we talk about the separation of character and performer. And
Mm.
it can really be helpful if you're a character that's experiencing violence or exploitation to
Hmm.
like help your brain separate, my body experienced this, but I'm still me in the dressing room. It's just
Mm.
sort of so your body informs your brain, but your brain informs your body. So to like help
Sure.
both of those remember who you are and where you are. Um, is helpful. And then with Carmen, we also like need to remind the audience of that.
Hmm.
Like there's something about like, if you're ever talking to donors after and they're like, when you did this on stage, and it's like, well, actually, I was singing
Right.
and I didn't actually slap anybody, like
Right. Right.
but that like, your body has a reaction to what you're doing, which is biological and involuntary,
Sure.
and you got to rely on your brain to be like, we're at work. This,
Right.
my scene partner is also at work,
Right.
and just because my body is reacting in that way doesn't mean I get to interpret that as a
Yeah.
relationship that exists
Right.
outside the rehearsal.
Yeah.
Right.
Again,
We all have brains.
yeah,
Let's use them.
it was a Tosca that I was doing years ago, and it wasn't involving me, but I remember the Tosca. They didn't have an intimacy or a fight director, and the Tosca would tell me some stories about what was happening between her and the Scarpia during her scene, and she was like just disgusted,
Yikes.
just disgusted,
Wow.
It's
and he could justify it because
it's my character.
of the character, but
Yeah.
let's just say it didn't end on stage.
Yuck.
That kind of behavior
Ugh.
continued to happen during breaks and after shows, and it's just like whoa,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. Not
And
not
so
not good.
it's not good in any way, shape, or form. But and then like Manon, Romeo, Juliet, and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit old fashioned in my kind of taste of what I'm looking for at the opera, but it's still go to the opera because I want to hear the best singing I can hear of these roles. It doesn't need to be the most beautiful Juliet or the most handsome Romeo I have ever seen. I mean, okay, we're telling a story. We're singing in extremes of registers, which clearly people not doing normally on the streets. And we're not using microphones, and I just feel like opera's the last frontier of, or unamplified acoustical music from all instruments that are being played at that time. And although it's lovely to have an attractive whomever, I think what people think is attractive is
Subjective.
subjective,
Extremely personal.
extremely. But
And also,
yeah, go ahead.
the audience doesn't need to feel that Juliet is attractive. Romeo does,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
right? Like, whatever the audience finds attractive, which is some crazy mix, yet undetermined of nature and nurture.
Mhm.
Like, the only person who needs to exhibit attraction to Juliet is the character of Romeo, not even the performer of Romeo, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
we're
Right.
Sure.
acting here, people. Chemistry is built.
Yeah. Oh,
Chemistry
absolutely.
is created in a scene, and it's not magic,
Right.
right? It's not some thing that exists and you have it or you don't, right?
Mhm.
And usually, when we say that somebody has easy chemistry, it's
Uh-huh.
because they have a pre-existing relationship and they
Right.
feel safe to be vulnerable with each other,
Sure.
or they just have a lot of confidence,
Right.
which always reads as very attractive on stage.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
What are some of the most challenging moments as an intimacy director that you've faced in your career in doing such?
When somebody doesn't stick to the staging,
Oh, yeah.
it's especially in those vulnerable moments, and it's like, y'all gonna get letters, but it's usually male singers who are just less aware that they're not doing the staging, and it's the female scene partner who has to come up to me or stage management and be like, "Hey, this moment is inconsistent and it's affecting my performance." And it may not be malicious. It may not be there to undercut anybody or to exploit anybody, but just that they don't realize that, we agreed to grab here
Mhm.
on this beat. And when
Right.
you're slightly off,
Yeah.
that affects a lot
Sure.
of stuff. It's
Yeah.
and that's always tricky, because if someone doesn't realize they're doing it, then they're much more likely to get
Well,
defensive,
yeah, sure.
and
I think it's
it's
incredibly charitable, though, the way you just explained that, because I think people take advantage of that way more than what you're saying happens. But
sadly, yes.
yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it where they're, you know, what can be kind of, what am I trying to say? Washed away, but they're such a stage animal. They're so passionate. I was like, but they're so, like,
Over the line.
oh, yeah, over the top and just like impetuous and just kind of like, like we're what? You've got to do the blocking. Like this is what we're doing.
I would like to point out, with these people who
Yeah.
are like, I'm just acting,
Yeah.
I'm just feeling stuff on stage.
Right.
They're feeling enough to change their blocking, but not enough to make their technique go out.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
Right.
right.
If
Yeah.
they were
Right. They're still
really like,
singing.
yeah, if they were Maria Callas at the end of whatever Bohème that was, where she just like does not care about
Right.
hitting that last Mimi's B flat or
Right.
something,
Right. Right.
like then we can talk, right?
Right.
Like that is a thing that I think comes from a
Yeah.
genuine place, and whether you think that's like the right step as a performer, that's, a different conversation.
Right.
But it's usually people who want to change the staging for their personal gain,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
who aren't willing to have a conversation about it and make it an artistic choice. Like,
Yeah. Right. Or else, why wouldn't you be rehearsing it that way?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and maybe you feel that, I don't know, the nurse should be, in Romeo and Juliet should have such and such moment. Well, like, let's talk about it, because
Right.
then we would also have to talk about why you feel that's warranted, which
Mm-hmm.
means you have to have an artistic opinion, which
Yeah.
people then you got to think, you got to use your brain, and we're back at that issue.
I was about to say that could be step one.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Right.
yeah.
Should be.
uh, yeah. No, there was
Well,
something. Oh
so what
man.
are some of the
Yeah. Go ahead.
trickier productions or repertoire that you've worked on where it's like, look, if anybody is planning a production of fill in the blank, you need to really make sure you have somebody.
I mean, the one that always is my like needs an intimacy director more than anything else is Dead Man Walking.
Yeah, that's what I
Wow.
was thinking.
Like, yeah, to me, it's always like, and I've worked with, very experienced stage managers who have done Dead Man Walking, who are like, I'm actually very affected because, they are responsible for the safety of the people on stage, and they
Right.
have to watch. The first scene is a sexual assault of a minor.
Right.
Right.
And so they have to watch. And so, an intimacy director can help the stage management team develop, they call it a closer ritual or an opening ritual, just a way to
Mm,
be like, okay, brain, trauma moment done, let's move on.
right.
Of like, I think the solution at this one was a check-in with all the performers involved in that opening scene. And they would just go to the stage manager and be like, I'm cool. Everything's great. I'm cool. I'm going to my dressing room for my next scene. The fixes aren't crazy. They aren't complex, but they just take a little bit of effort.
Yeah, no, if I may go on a little bit of a tangent, I've been working with a buddy of mine who's an actor on like Chekhov method essentially, and a lot of this
Mm,
kind of idea of like, being able to snap in and put your, emotions into a vase or a vessel and put it on and be able to pull it back and get your physical psychological gesture that you're going to do to kind of get you in the moment of it, because I did a lot of Carmen's, and Irini would be like, it's tough to be with you on these gigs when you're singing Carmen, because you're just not your normal jovial happy kind of self. And I was like, yeah, well, I just spent 6 hours being laughed at or being made to feel like this or whatever, and being manipulated by all of
yeah.
these other decisions that I'm trying to do the right thing, and then somebody turns it on me, and I was just like, yeah. And it's like,
You're
and
putting your body in a situation and your body is telling your brain we're in trouble.
right. And that's not a distinction I wish I had that tool in my box when I was doing all that kind of stuff. And Butterfly too. I remember like there were certain times when I would come back for act 3 and I feel so terrible about myself.
I mean, if your line is literally "I'm a villain,"
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
say
yeah,
it
yeah.
enough and your brain
Yeah,
starts
yeah.
cluing in.
And just I remember I was at ENO doing Butterfly, and I went out to watch act 2, and I had never seen act 2 in English, essentially.
Mm, mhm.
And also, I'm not saying that I'm a tenor that's a terrible, kind of colleague, but I didn't really it's been a long time since I read the libretto of exactly what was said in act
Yeah,
2.
yeah, yeah.
And it was really harsh to listen to that, and knowing that I was the character that they were being talked about, and then I had to go up and sing act 3. um and I just was like on the edge of tears the whole time, because I was like, I hate playing this. This is so terrible. Like, what did you do to this poor woman? And it's like all this kind of stuff. But anyway, just having some acting technical tools and chops to be able to kind of go and do that.
And on
And
that note, I would recommend Chekhovian training for singers. I
oh,
think
I
it's
agree,
very
Absolutely.
practical for singers.
100,000%. I mean, it's almost been more transformative than therapy for me in a lot of
Wow.
ways. Oh yeah. Just in kind of dealing with and going back to things, and just being like, okay, that doesn't have to live in my subconscious anymore, because it has its place over there. And
Right,
if I
right. I
feel
mean,
like yeah, go ahead.
it's like giving your emotions a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a corgi that's, you can't keep it cooped up. You gotta give a corgi a job to run.
And a
I'm a
German
dog
Shepherd. We
lover.
have a
Weston
German
hasn't
Shepherd at
seen this
home.
too much, but
Yeah.
I will chase down a dog on the street. I'm like, "Let me love you." But, like, anytime I can
Nah.
bring a dog into the conversation, I will.
Do you still get back to New Orleans?
Not as much as I used
Yeah.
to. When I went up to CCM for grad school after
Uh-huh.
living in New Orleans, after going to LSU,
Yeah.
best time to be in New Orleans,
Sure.
honestly, right after college,
Right.
because you are a little bit invincible,
Sure.
um, no longer.
Right.
But I was going down a lot. But this is the time of year when I miss it the most: the Mardi Gras parades and the
Yeah.
crawfish
Crawfish
boils, and
boils. Yeah, sure.
yeah.
I'm just curious, because I'm not there very much, but Irini and the girls are there. My parents are all there, and so kind of in my off time, I'm back down there, and we have a great dog that you're always welcome to come over and say hi,
Thank you, thank you.
and we'll grill up
He
some
is a
food and
very
stuff.
big German Shepherd named Zeus.
He's such a sweet boy, though.
Incredible.
He's
Incredible.
such a
Yeah,
sweet
German
boy.
shepherds really need a job. But, like,
They really, yeah,
like our dogs, our emotions
yeah,
are here to help us,
yeah,
but they don't always quite do it in the most helpful way.
sure,
Like, it was a big thing for me to realize that, like, I'm very anxious in general, and, like, and back, when I went up to grad school, I had been out of school for 4 years, since my
okay,
undergrad, and I was
yeah,
really nervous about what am I gonna be like in the school environment again? Do I remember how
mm-hmm,
to do this? And,
right,
I'm a lot older than most of the master's students, even though I was in the artist diploma, and, like,
huh,
am I gonna make friends? And just
sure,
I had a great therapist in grad school who was like, "Your emotions are here because they're trying to help."
hmm,
And not that they're not here to cause you pain. They're here to
right,
inform you about your situation. And when you start thinking about your emotions as a tool in your toolkit instead of, like, letting them take over your whole existence,
yeah.
Oh
that
yeah.
can really help.
Oh,
And I think,
yeah, absolutely. Because I remember having done a lot of Carmen's and Butterfly. Anyway, I'm trying to get to like to the point of characters that go they have big emotional arcs, right? And a lot of times I would just get stuck in feeling those places, and so I'd either be one, the directors would be like, "You're just not in it enough. I don't feel like you believe it enough." So
Mm.
that would pendulum swing me to the other way where I'm, like, over kind of doing it, and then it started to affect my voice or how I was the technique of how I was singing a certain scene. But, whenever I would go out and kind of leave blood on the stage, people went nuts, especially at the last scene of
Oh,
Carmen. People were just,
yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah,
throwing,
yeah, yeah.
it was ridiculous, and so that I knew I was going too far, but I also knew that the casting directors and the opera house was very aware of the applause and the ovations that
Oh,
came
yeah.
after that, and especially in tenors, I mean, I think kind of from it was happening before with somebody like Villazon, right? Rolando Villazon was just known for just giving everything to the
Mhm.
detriment of the vocal technique and such, but, it kind of almost became, and although Kaufman is a bit cooler version of that, I mean, he's an excellent actor. He's a really good
Yeah, yeah.
actor.
Yeah.
And when he needs to go into that kind of like over the edge, over the line of like, kind of borderline madness, people are like, it's totally believable, right? Oh, and Pagliacci, Canio, one of the last things, and Cavalleria. Um, it's just like one of those kind of tricky things where the opera world expects that you're going to chew the scenery and light the stage on fire as well as sing this like really difficult
Yeah. And,
stuff.
like, ideally, your acting training is there so the stage is on fire, but it's not a real fire.
Right.
Exactly.
It helps you
It's
create that, like,
CGI. Yeah.
that urgency and that sense of, genuine not genuine, how do I talk about this? Like, your character's at these emotional heights as well as these vocal extremities.
Hmm.
So how do we create the behavior of a person in that emotional state without being in that emotional state?
Right.
It's
And
that
that's
Right.
where
separation where we find the balance, right? I mean,
yes.
within that separation, that still allows us to sing well. That still allows us to realize my hand is on her forearm. It's not creeping up her shoulder towards her. You know what I mean? It's like whatever the
Yeah,
Right.
or whatever it
situation
is,
might
yeah.
be,
Right.
it's important to keep that distance between what would be like in real life as opposed to like we are just on stage acting, telling a story. It's not living the story. And I think that everyone needs to be on that same page because where it gets dangerous is when the director or one of the performers or whatever is like, no, 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 come
Encourages.
on, more. This is real. Go ahead and hit me for real. You're like, what? No.
Oh yeah. I've totally
The hit
seen
me
that. Mm.
so one of my, stage combat instructors and one of the fight masters. So this is the highest, rank and skill that exists in the Society of American Fight Directors. They're the best of the best out there.
Mm.
They told this story of one of their first professional acting gigs when they were, early 20s. The director said, just slap them.
Right.
And it ruptured their ear. It landed in exactly the right spot to rupture their eardrum, and they've had hearing damage ever since.
Yeah,
Have you
exactly.
seen these videos of the slapping competitions on like
Oh my
Instagram or
God.
TikTok? I mean, it's like a sport
No,
in itself. But what happens is
Don't go
to,
looking. It's
no, I
ridiculous.
won't. I
it's
won't.
Jeez
crazy.
Louise.
But it's like sometimes with just a slap in the right, you can break a jaw, you can rupture
You
a ear.
can. And I
It's
mean, I
crazy.
took my firearm training certification a couple years ago, and a blank has killed a person,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Very
And like
famously, right? Yeah.
yes. Yeah. I mean, blanks are dangerous. What we're doing to each other is has an inherent risk.
Right.
And we don't need the audience to believe it. We don't need it to fit the rules of physics 100%.
Right.
We just need to get far enough that the audience is still with the story.
Yeah,
Yes, I agree.
exactly. Thank you. It's not all about that.
No.
It's one aspect of, I mean, I remember working in London and around the opera house for a lot of years, and they were just like, everybody used to harken back to this production of Manon with Villazon and Netrebko, and then it was Grigolo and Netrebko, and Grigolo was always trying to go further than Villazon went, to make it sexy or whatever, to the point. And I don't think Anna had any problems with it, but at the same time, why was that something that even was to be talked about? I'd much rather be like, man, they held that high note for fucking forever or whatever. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
is that not what opera is about? If
Yes.
that's what you're looking for, there are places you can go and find that. This is about
Right.
singing and storytelling and this art form. You
Right.
know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's the
Suspension of
and
disbelief is a sentence that we are familiar
Yeah,
with.
I mean, yeah,
exactly.
none of us are out there singing high whatevers at the
Right,
grocery store. I mean,
right.
that'd be cool, but, like,
I did do that at
we
Central Grocery once. I went and sang "O Sole Mio" for the news there. It was kind of fun. But other than that,
oh,
no,
there you
it
go.
doesn't happen.
No, like, we none of it's realistic,
Yeah,
so we're here to serve the story
yeah,
and
totally.
hopefully not cause any lasting damage to yourself. I mean, one of the
Or others.
things that young singers can be really nervous about, sort of on the flip side is, like, too careful. And,
Mhm.
like, there's also a danger of, like, if someone's supposed to grab your arm and drag you around the stage and you just get this,
Well,
you
yeah,
don't know where they are. You don't
right.
know where their
Right.
body is. So we need to figure out what the appropriate level of contact and force is for your body. I mean, I have a, decently fleshy forearm, and I like a good amount of contact
Right,
to pull against. And
right.
it's just going to be different for different people. Like humans are resilient. We're trying to create what did they say back in my training? Like, if you're still stuck in the character after like 12 hours, 24 hours, then we need to address things. But,
Oh,
like,
wow.
if you just walk out of the theater and you're like, "Oh, I still feel this character," that's generally okay. It's about the ability to recover, you
Mm,
know?
yeah,
If it's not, some people are able to close that book right then, but there are
right.
tools to help you do that. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you
it's
so much for joining us. I think that, I mean,
yeah.
we're all learning as we go, but I think that for our
Do we have
target
time to
audiences
give
of
for me to give, like, a quick tip of, like, if you don't
Absolutely.
have an
oh,
intimacy director,
100%.
Yeah.
like,
A
just
hundred
before
percent.
you go?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
My quick first thing is, like, if your director isn't helping you very much, make a plan between you and your scene partner. It can be as basic as, like, we're gonna kiss and my nose goes this way and your nose goes that way and who starts the kiss. Like,
Mm,
any sort of plan
yeah,
that you can then build off of is helpful. And if you're feeling unsafe, stage management is often a great resource.
right.
And if you're on stage and you find yourself going too far, stage management can also help you by being in the wings with, maybe they've got their little green light they use to cue people, and you can see it and be like,
Mhm,
I'm in reality. Like, there's little things you
right.
can do to, like, ask nicely for what you need is generally my
I think
advice.
that's a great bit of
Yeah,
advice. Great bit of
yeah,
advice.
yeah. Because if you can't blame somebody for not knowing if you didn't ask and say that
Yeah, and
there's
and I've
something.
been in stage management and I've been an AD, and usually we're so cool with giving you what you need as long as you ask nicely.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, well, I mean,
absolutely.
in general, just always ask questions. Ask your director. What do you when you say just go ahead and kiss her now? What do you mean? Like, how do you want that to happen? Like, I think it's once the actor starts to or singer starts to ask those questions, it hopefully will trigger the director to be like, "Oh, right, of course. Sorry. What I mean is that yeah. So just ask
This
questions.
is often advice I give younger singers, is that if you're struggling with a piece of staging, a question is a way to express interest without confrontation.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Of,
Yeah,
like, "Oh, I'm struggling to make this cross work. Can you help me just watch my feet and see if I'm doing anything weird, or help
right.
me find the motivation to, or, like, what exactly gets my attention to turn around?" Asking a question is a great way to open a
Mm, yeah,
100%. Yes.
absolutely. I love that.
I could talk about this for hours and hours.
Well, we all
I love it.
we are
Yeah.
passionate about what we do, right? I mean, that's what draws us to
Mhm.
the art form in the first place. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, just one last thing. I think being artists, and being in these things, we want to see how we can make things better, right?
Yeah.
How can we streamline this process? How can we protect more people? How can we to do all these I mean, the arts have always been a place for innovation, and kind of, social commentary and raising questions that, certainly there are a lot of questions that need to be raised right now, and how art can I kind of address these kinds of things. And I think that the more of these kinds of discussions that can take place at like Opera America conferences and other things like this, and small stages like our podcast here, the better, right? So that
Yeah.
Yeah.
hopefully, in 5 or 10 years, you know Michael Chekhov's work and stuff and Chekhovian method, this is all part of Opera Workshop anymore,
Oh my
in the way
gosh.
that the time before Alexander technique and all this stuff was talked about alignment in the voice studio.
Right.
This is just going to help protect and give the singers more tools to have in their toolbox.
Yes. Yes.
And I know we're out there doing it. I mean, Loyola, Irini is who teaches at Loyola, is bringing in the same guy that I was working with, who's a Met actor. It's in Loyola to come and do a 3-day opera workshop
I love
session
that.
on that
That's
kind of
awesome.
stuff. And yeah, so I think it's only a matter of time, but we can get it out there faster. I know Michael Schell here, who's at IU. He
Hmm.
deals with that in his opera workshop classes. So it's people like us who are pushing this envelope in the right direction. So
We work in imagination. We can all imagine a better version of what we're living in now and work towards it. If you can imagine it, you can work towards it.
I agree. I love that. I love that.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much
Well,
for
thank
joining
you so
us.
much for joining
Dude,
us. I
this was
really
super
appreciate it.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if you haven't
And your
already,
shows
like
are
and
what,
subscribe to our
April?
podcast so
Yeah.
you don't miss anything. Sorry, what'd you say, Brian?
And your shows are April what?
April 10th and April 12th.
If you're in
Yeah.
the
Bass
Dallas
Hall,
Fort
Fort
Worth
Worth,
area,
Texas.
check
Yeah,
it out. I wish I could be there, but I'll be thinking of you guys.
likewise.
All right.
All right. Well,
Thanks
thanks
again,
so
and we'll
much. We'll
see
see you
you.
next time.
See you
Thank
next
you
time.
so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Between the Notes. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And join us next week for more behind the scenes stories, laughs, and operatic gold coming your way.